But what we haven't known is what happened prior to the first responders arriving on the scene. And tonight I can tell you.
Well, I can actually tell you that this is good information from Ashley Banfield. As some of you may know, in the last live stream on this channel, What's the Obsession, before I took a little break to take a family vacation to the happiest place on earth, we actually broke this news on What's the Obsession. So it was, in fact, Ethan's best friend who apparently found Ethan and Xana, and I learned this from two guys who have been people I've been corresponding with who've become really great sources for this channel. I learned this well over a month ago, and they thought they were going to be breaking this news on this channel. So I guess that's not going to be the case, but what I can tell you is of the people who arrived on the scene prior to the 911 call being made, it was 2 males, the person Ashley Banfield speaking about, and also Ethan Chapin's brother, Hunter, and 4 females. So sometime this coming weekend or early next week, and today is February 20th, 2023, we are going to be discussing all of those details on this channel, and we're going to be doing it respectfully. But nevertheless, it seems that the information here presented by Ashley Banfield is in fact accurate. Is this something you knew before watching this video or before hearing it on my channel about a week and a half ago? Please leave a comment and let us know what you think.
We've known a lot of things, not everything, but the probable cause affidavit, some of the police reporting, and the news conferences, that's given us a small picture. But what we haven't known is what happened prior to the first responders arriving on the scene, and tonight I can tell you. You have heard that the 911 call was made from a surviving roommate's cell phone, but we can now tell you who it was who made that call. I'm not going to name the person, but it was Ethan's best friend who made the 911 call, and that's because it was Ethan's best friend who made the discovery of Xana and Ethan's bodies. And that is a very tragic and sad detail to report. Up until now, it had been an assumption that there was maybe an unconscious person because it was a guess that there was someone behind the door who wasn't answering a bedroom door. Now we can tell you that it was Ethan's best friend who had been called over that morning and made the discovery and took Ethan's pulse. Also called out to get 911 on the phone. It is more than likely that the phone that was used to call 911 was surviving roommate Dylan Mortenson's cell phone. You have probably heard up until now that it was an unconscious person that the dispatch said over the radio, but that's not unusual because when there's confusion, it's standard protocol, according to an article that came out recently in Airmail. Standard protocol, if there's confusion, just to skip the necessities of getting clarity and just dispatch the first responders for an unconscious person, regardless of what the actual situation is. So for anyone getting caught up on an unconscious person, probably not a good idea, given the fact that that's just sort of a standard description for get moving. We need people on the location. Again, this is multiple sources tonight with knowledge of the investigation telling us about who made the discovery of Ethan's body and then, of course, of Xana's body. What I can tell you is who made the discovery of Maddie and Kaylee on the 3rd floor. I'm not sure if it was any of the other kids who were called over. What is interesting about this whole scenario that played out that morning was that kids came over to the home and then 911 was called. So who knows if there was any knowledge of the carnage that had taken place in that home before the kids came over. I mean, it's college, right? It's Sunday morning after a fun Saturday night. And maybe, just maybe, kids were coming over to, get together and go out for a Sunday brunch. But some kids who are unidentified at this time went over to the house that morning, and it was Ethan's best friend who made that discovery and took Ethan's pulse and yelled for them to call 911 and ultimately got on the phone on Dylan Mortensen's phone and talked to the 911 operators. I want to bring in News Nation senior national correspondent Brian Enton. Brian has been at the forefront of reporting this story. It's such an uncomfortable detail, but it is one piece of the puzzle that we've been trying to figure out in terms of why it's so complicated, that scene the morning of the murders.
Yeah, so much of this has been confusing based on the reports we've gotten from police. There have been so many holes and things that they haven't shared. I think beginning with your exclusive reporting last week, things started to make a little bit more sense in terms of surviving roommate Dylan and the fact that she may have thought that there were noises coming from upstairs, but not necessarily noises that meant that something bad was happening or that a murder was happening. That started to explain why she may have not initially called 911, in the middle of the night. Your exclusive reporting sort of shed light on that. And now I think this sort of continues to, again, put the pieces together now to know that there were people who came to the house that morning. And it would make sense, what you said about the unconscious person, that may have just been a categorization that the 911 call was put under. But certainly tragic, as you said, to think that Ethan's best friend, took the pulse. I mean, it's all just so heartbreaking.
All right, my friends. So I just want to remind you of some other information about this case that we broke here on What's the Obsession. And this has to do with the order that these poor victims lost their lives in this terrible tragedy. Recently, on several channels, the channels have been announcing who was found where and their theories on what happened and why, as though this has never been discussed before, but that's not exactly the case. So here is a compilation of some video cuts from this channel over the past few weeks. Please watch, listen carefully. This information is legitimate. It seems like Stephen Gonsalves was definitely right on this one. The perpetrator, Bryan Kohberger, did not need to go up the stairs from the second floor to the third floor. It is understood, although it has not been confirmed by law enforcement, that Kohberger must have entered through the second floor sliding glass door or window that was in ground level, which was on the second floor. I guess there's another possibility in my mind, which would be to come right through the front door if he had something to do with the ordering of the Jack in the Box late night snack that is said to have been ordered by Xana. But we will visit that later this week. So if Bryan Kohberger came in through the first or second floor, he definitely did not need to go up the stairs to the third floor. We can also tell from the probable cause affidavit that Bryan Kohberger, in my opinion, I firmly believe he was not in the house at 1122 King Road prior to the victims arriving home from wherever they were that evening. The timeline in the probable cause affidavit is pretty tight, with Bryan Kohberger driving around with, his phone not being with him, being off and back at his apartment in Pullman. We don't have that method of tracking him, but he was certainly seen on enough video cameras to make a very tight timeline. In my opinion, there is no way he was lying in wait in the residence. Something we can also tell from, not necessarily the probable cause affidavit, but another court document that has been released, and that is the criminal complaint, which in Idaho is the charging document. In the criminal complaint, the charges are listed in this order. Count 1, felony burglary, and then count 2, 3, 4, and 5 are each counts of first-degree murder. Now, I have to give Tom N. and Gregory Worth, subscriber and moderator to the channel, some credit here, because they were the two people who helped to bring this issue alive during a chat the other day. So Tom N. said, hey, my uncle's a judge, and he said that the order in which the counts appear when you're talking about, some same charges, murder counts, is the order in which, so sadly, the victims lost their lives. I thought, oh, wow, okay, well, I'm going to look into that. I'm not sure. I mean, I believe Tom, but I have to look into that like everything else. Then Gregory asked, I wonder if the order in which the counts appear on the charging document, is that the order that the initials are in the tattoos that Bethany and Dylan, the surviving roommates, got to remember their roommates? So we did some scrambling around, looking things up, enlarging, sharpening pictures and all that jazz. And lo and behold, they match up exactly. The tattoos, the order of the initials go like this: MK, XE, Madison, Kelly, Xana, Ethan. In the criminal complaint, the charges go like this. The first count is felony burglary. Count 2 is the first count of first-degree murder, Madison Mogan. Count 3, the second count of first-degree murder, Kelly Gonsalves. Count 4, the third count of first-degree murder, Xana Kernodle. And count 5, the fourth count of first-degree murder, Ethan Chapin. God rest their souls, and I hope we find justice for the victims and peace for the families. So I spoke with 3 different longtime veteran reputable attorneys and just asked them this question. Hey, listen, in a criminal complaint, the order in which the counts are listed or are read, if we're talking about the same charge, hey, let's say, for example, first-degree murder, how would a judge determine the order they're read in? Or maybe the question is, how would the prosecutor or the state's representative, the investigator or the police write the document that the judge would read? How would they list those charges? And all 3 of them said, well, it would be in the order in which they use different language, but they lost their lives. So I hit Google and some books and researched this. And what I found is this. A charging document, a criminal complaint, needs to have the following elements. The date in which the crime or crimes was allegedly committed, a written statement that includes all of the facts available that are specifically connected to the criminal charges and the particular state law or statute that the subject has supposedly violated. Now, as you go on and read literature about the charging document or the criminal complaint, the mentioning of the order in which the counts are listed are by classification of the crime, whether it be a misdemeanor or a felony, essentially in least serious or holding the least penalty to the most serious, or the crime that holds the potential for the greatest penalty, and or chronology, or a combination of both. So obviously here, count 1, felony burglary. Felony burglary compared to first-degree murder is a much less serious charge. And then because we have 4 counts of first-degree murder, those 4 counts are then listed in chronology.